Oh, my God. The Adventures of Mabel. I haven't thought about this in forever. You remember this, Chuck?
I do. Harry Thurston Peck.
Yeah. Mabel goes into the mountain, and she meets the king of the brownies, and he gives her some kind of super delicious jelly, and holy crap, 1912.
Yeah, belonged to Grammy Davenport. She wrote her name in it. She was reading that to her school kids the year the Titanic went down.
Damn. And Mom read it to me.
I read it to you. You don't remember?
Yeah. I do now that you say it, yeah. What was I, like 5 or 6?
You had this weird night light that you were so crazy about. It was
Daffy Duck.
It was some Daffy Duck ripoff with this weird red
Bill.
bill.
Oh, yeah, Bill.
Yeah. And it used to get so hot, we thought it would burn the house down, but we wouldn't let anybody touch it.
Yeah, you got a great memory, Chuck. The red bill and everything. Hey, what was the name of that little girl that lived 3 houses up from us? She had, like, a page-boy haircut, and she was always in the dirt, always dirty.
Jimmy.
I liked her. She was always...
Jimmy. Don't think I'll ever forget what happened here today. And you will pay.
I love the Yankees as only a Dodger fan can love the Yankees.
What does that mean?
No, I just see as a LA guy over here, and you got a New York guy, a Yankee guy over here.
Makes you happy.
Yeah, no, I'm putting out a cent, you know.
Michael McKean, thank you so much for being here. It's an honor to have you on this stage.
We'll
sir.
see about that.
Yeah, we got 25 minutes for you to bury that statement.
Yes, okay.
Better Call Saul premieres tonight, right?
Does,
Season
yes.
3.
I'm excited.
You're excited.
I am. I have the night off anyway, so I was already excited.
Do you watch the show when it airs?
Yeah, and then I don't ever again.
What's it like? Are you able to watch yourself comfortably and watch the story comfortably? Can you get involved? Or
Yeah,
do you
well,
find
a lot
yourself-
of the story I kind of, the stuff that I'm not in, which is considerable, I don't read it too closely because I want to be surprised. You know, all this stuff that Mike Ehrmantraut does, all the little fine tuning on these tricks and all this surveillance and stuff and everything. I like to be surprised along with everybody else. I know what I'm going to do because I already did it, you know. But watching the parts of the plot that don't involve me is fascinating. I mean, it's a good show. It's a show I would watch even if I weren't on it.
Absolutely. These scripts are kept pretty much under lock and key while you guys are shooting it. Do you get full scripts or do you just get your sides?
Oh no, we get the full script, yeah. But we don't get it, with a ton of time. Usually it's about 2 weeks before we start shooting a show. We usually get that script, and we're usually in the middle of another show, so I don't even look at them until it's kind of too late, which is the way I like it.
What I love about Better Call Saul is how much about the writing the show feels like to me. The scenes are very much built around building out the mundane with as much talking and as many words as possible, really showcasing what the writers can do. What is that like for you as an actor?
Well, it's great because you get a chance to actually play the whole scene. There's a lot of TV, especially, but films too, where you see a lot of choppy scenes that don't really end. They end because we're going to go somewhere else now. But in the case of Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, and there are some others, a lot of other good shows on right now. They really let you sit there and just make the scene and let it happen. Did anyone see Tig Notaro's show, One Mississippi?
Yeah, I loved it.
That's an amazing show. And that was full of scenes that were sort of uncomfortable and kind of strange. And they weren't exactly fall down funny, but they were fascinating because we were dropped in the middle of a real thing. Now, no matter how melodramatic or how big your actions go, it has to be based in some kind of reality you can recognize. Unless it's not, unless you're in, you're in Middle Earth and there's something else going on, which is fine. I love that too. But I mean, the idea that scenes aren't choppy little epigrams and, someone makes a wisecrack and then we pop over and see what's happening at Mom's house. It's bordering on useless.
Well, there's a plot point that's introduced at the end of the last season that pulls over into this season, the
Right.
tape recorder. And
famous tape recorder,
The famous
yes.
tape recorder. And what I loved about this plot point is that it's not something that's introduced in, it's small, and it's not introduced in one episode and then sort of solved in the next.
Right.
They really take their time to bring it to the place where even if you know it's going there, it's how these writers are
Right.
getting there.
Well, they're laying pipe, to use the the colloquial, and it's the same as setting up a gag. But what you're really doing is you're laying a foundation for where you're going to go next. And listen, let's face it, Vince Gilligan and Peter Gould are very good writers, and so is Tom Schnoz and Jennifer Hutchinson. It's a really amazing squad of writers we got.
How meticulous are they on set with the words? And I don't mean that in terms of like how do you get to improvise or like
Right.
how comfortable they make you feel. But obviously, they're writing the show like most TV is written. So like week by week while you guys are shooting, they're cracking out the
Right.
episodes as well. But it still feels far more meticulous to me than that.
Well, I don't know. I think they're careful. I think they know what story they want to tell. I think that when they originally started the notion, when they originally had the notion of doing the story of Saul Goodman, how he went from Jimmy McGill to Saul Goodman, I think they had in mind some long arcs, and now they're working their way towards that. Along the way, they've told us that our performances, Bob and myself, as well as the rest of the cast, have informed where it goes. So, in other words, we didn't do any improvising, but there was something about the playing of a scene, for example, that made them think, yeah, that's something else about their relationship we haven't really colored in yet. Here, let's take a crack at that.
It's the great thing that you get to see a television show do after one season or two
Yeah.
seasons, which is the writers start responding to actors' strengths. So they watch
Yeah.
a scene and they say, "Oh, Michael's really good at playing this.
Yeah.
Love to see him do that again."
Well, I'm
Push it
sure
even
it's not the
further.
first time ever, You take a show like Moonlighting, which is where Bruce Willis came out of. Nobody quite knew what that show was going to be. They hired this guy who had no credits, really. But there was something about him that kind of started shaping the show. He was, just kind of in a good place with the creator of the show. And they really kind of wound up putting something together, not to cut Sybil Shepherd all the way out of it, but her character was kind of pretty much written on the page. But Bruce was like kind of creative, and to keep from getting bored, he'd kind of just kind of keep things cooking. And I think that it turned out to be one of those situations where an actor, was really kind of helped things snowball toward a successful show.
Now let's talk about Chuck, because in the green room, the first thing that I said to you was Chuck is really shaping up to be quite the villain here. And you had a response that I didn't expect but makes perfect sense, which is that you're sympathetic towards Chuck, and you don't see him
Oh, I
as
have
something
to be.
one-dimensional like a villain. And you have this whole idea built around him, which makes perfect sense, but it's obviously what you have to do as an actor.
Yeah, I mean, this is a guy that the law has served very well. The law has made him very rich, but only because he mastered the law, and only because he's an expert lawyer. The idea that someone without that expertise, without my brain power, and without my ethics is going to try and take a chunk of that away from me, or at least some of the thunder away from me, that's something I'm not going to stand for. It's something that Chuck wouldn't stand for.
Is the battle between Jimmy and Chuck, do you guys ever look at it as a battle between ethics and morals, where morally Jimmy is not opposed to breaking ethics laws to help a friend, to help his family, to work with his family, and Chuck will never break the law to help anybody and break
You're
the law?
forgetting the first times that Jimmy broke the law, which I'm not talking about the Chicago sunroof necessarily, but I mean, he was a swindler. He was a small-time hustler who tricked people out of their money. Now, because it's TV, we like to see those people getting tricked as being kind of, they had it coming. They were outsmarted and go to hell. But it's just something that I understand about Chuck. I don't have that kind of, I've never loathed either one of my siblings. I really like them both very much. So
That is good. Did you hear that, siblings?
yeah, siblings all over America. Yeah, but I understand it, and I understand being competitive for a parent's love. I understand being not appreciated. I can understand all those things on a clinical level. That doesn't make me Chuck, and doesn't make Chuck me, and I would never be that guy. I couldn't get through law school, for one thing. But also, I'm a different person. But you have to understand the person you are portraying to some extent, or else no one else is going to buy it. No one else is going to think much of you.
Is that a hypothetical that you couldn't get through law school, or did you actually try to go to law school?
No.
Oh, okay.
I never tried, no.
I didn't think so.
No, I'm not a studious,
performer,
not a
right?
studious type. No. No, I went to NYU over here and didn't go to you. Yeah, I did some very casual colleging, but I don't have a diploma in anything. I just went out to California and started hanging out and doing stuff in clubs and then working on TV.
What was your first major gig?
My first major gig, I guess it would be Laverne and Shirley.
Right, writing on it, right?
Well, we were hired as writers, but Penny knew what she was doing. Penny Marshall knew what she was doing. She says, "Yeah, we're going to hire you guys as writers, but those two characters that could you work those in?" And we said, "Yeah, we'll see what we can do." So we wrote ourselves into the first episode, and every episode after that. So that's how it's done, ladies and gentlemen. Just get a job doing one thing and do something else.
100%. That's absolutely how
it is right. Yeah.
Get that job and look for that other thing that might be a little bit better there that you can do. Now you're also on Broadway right now.
I am.
Yeah. Talk about
Well, I mean, right now I'm down here,
now
but
you're on
yes.
4th and you are on Broadway. Actually,
That's
right
true.
now.
I go north, and we're at the Friedman Theater. It's The Little Foxes with Laura Linney and Cynthia Nixon, and it's kind of awesome. It's a 1939 play written by Lillian Hellman, who was a great American playwright and smart woman, and it's a lot of fun. It's another family quarrel that goes very, very wide. And in this case, it's I don't see a lot of parallels, but it is about siblings to a certain extent.
And how did you get involved with the play?
They called me up, said, "You want to do this?" And I said, "Yeah." Yeah. Well, I'd worked with Dan Sullivan, who's the director. He directed me in a production of The Homecoming 9 years ago. And I had a great time with him then. I'm having an amazing time now. And Laura and Cynthia are just as awesome as you think. And just, it's really a lot of fun. The audiences have been great. We open officially on the 19th.
Have you always been an actor in the theater, or did that come later? Did you start as a comedian and a comedy writer and doing characters?
Well, I always wanted to be an actor, and I went to school to study acting. And I always assumed, I grew up on Long Island, and I always assumed that I was going to work on the stage. It just looked like a great gig. It looked like something I could maybe do. And I thought I'd still live in Seacliff and take the train to Manhattan. I had it all mapped out. I was 14. What did I know? So I wound up moving to LA when I was very young. And in 1989, I did a play called Accomplice at the Pasadena Playhouse, and they moved that play to New York. So that was my first Broadway show. It was 1990. And then I took about 12 years off. And the next thing I did, I took over from Harvey Fierstein in Hairspray. And then I just started working a lot in New York. And it was like, hey, this is what I wanted when I was 14.
Did coming from a comedy background in LA with Laverne and Shirley and even with This Is Spinal Tap, did you ever feel typecast that you would be sort of a supporting comedy character and stuff rather than...
Oh, I definitely could have done that. But my theory is that typecasting happens if your second gig is the same as your first. So while I was doing Laverne and Shirley, after I was done, I got a lot of offers for, you want to be the goofy neighbor next door to this guy now? You want to be the goofy neighbor next to... no, pass. And the next couple of things I did after Laverne and Shirley were a movie called Young Doctors in Love, which was a silly farce, but I was kind of the straight man for the cast of Loonies. And then This Is Spinal Tap. So at least I could prove to people that I wasn't a one-trick pony. And I always valued versatility more than anything else. Some of my favorite actors go deep undercover. Dustin Hoffman, you mentioned him before. It's like, yeah, he's always Dustin Hoffman, but he takes a chance, this guy, There are a lot of others, but yeah.
What's been the toughest role that you've taken? The role that was the most challenging for you to sort of wrap your head around?
Well, I played poor old Gloucester in King Lear over here at the Public about 6 years ago. And it was really grueling. I mean, the language is difficult. You know, it's to make it real, to make it not sound like somebody reading Shakespeare out of a book. And the production was a difficult one. And, you know, I spent half the play with my eyes torn out and wandering around the stage. And I got to say that was kind of a challenge, you know. But a lot of stuff that's happened in New Mexico was difficult. A lot of Chuck was very difficult.
Well, you shot a scene or a whole sequence last season near the end of the sequence after Chuck hits his head and he's brought through the hospital. It's all one shot, and you're freaking out. You're having tantrums while you're strapped into a hospital bed. It's an incredible sequence. It's all one shot. What was it like shooting that, and what did you think when they first pitched it to you?
Well, they kind of didn't pitch it to me. They said, no, here's what this, you know, I read the script. I knew what it was going to be, and they strapped me in, and off we go. I didn't know how they were going to cover it. I knew there was a little camera perched above my head, shooting down this way. I did not know that that was going to be the entire shot because they had other cameras going. But they decided to use just that little camera's output, and it works great.
It's wonderful.
Because the way it's lit, you feel the heat and the electricity and all the electromagnetic vibes that are killing them. You know, you can just kind of feel them for yourself. And
it's also an incredible showcase for your performance as well in that moment, sticking with it.
And my bald spot. I should have sold advertising up there. I keep telling
that's what you focus on. Like if you were watching that scene with a group of people, they'd all be going, "You're amazing,
but you're really losing
my bald spot."
No, I've adjusted. I'm fine.
Was that a tough scene to shoot?
Yeah, I suppose so. It was not comfortable, and it was kind of emotionally painful and draining. But that's kind of what we do, you know. We also got the other end of it, you know. We can also do funny stuff sometimes. I mean, not so much on Better Call Saul, but you know, that makes you feel better, you know, when you get a laugh. That's why I love working on the stage, you know. Even Little Foxes, which is not essentially a comedy, there are great comic moments, and the audiences have been amazing. And man, I look, if you make somebody laugh, you make them live longer. That doesn't give them a good life, but it really does help you. And I think the reason that we laugh is for our health. What else would it mean? Why does the baby laugh when you tickle him? Well, maybe it's to strengthen his core. Maybe this is something that is as good for you as it feels. So anytime I make anybody laugh, I'm very, very thankful.
Well, let's go back to, you know, one of the biggest times you made people laugh, which is Spinal Tap and your work with Christopher Guest.
Yeah.
All of those films, Spinal Tap, Best in Show, improvised, right? You get on set, you have a general idea for what your character is or maybe where the scene is going.
Right.
And then you guys improvise.
Right.
Does that give you, I mean, is that more difficult than getting on set and shooting with a script as tightly wound as Better Call Saul?
It's just different. It's just entirely different. I think that there was a feeling on Spinal Tap, and there's a feeling on Chris's films at their best when you really are struggling to keep it together when you're standing with Fred Willard or Jennifer Coolidge.
Couldn't imagine.
No, it's insane. I mean, it's like, how are we doing this? How are we even getting through this? And just the kind of level of work that those guys do. There's a scene in Best in Show, and it's one of the many times that Catherine O'Hara's character encounters an old lover. And it's this kind of embarrassing moment, and there's Gene Levy just going, here we go. And there was one scene, there was a bunch of us in the shot, and we're talking with Gene and Catherine, and one of her old lovers comes up and and we shot it 3 times, and each time when she saw him, her face went bright red. Wow. And I go, okay, hats off. That is awesome. I mean,
the best. I mean,
she is phenomenal. Yeah, no, she's a great improviser, and she's a great wit, and she's a great actress. So that's always fun. Yeah, Fred Willard's something else. Fred Willard is like a window into another universe somehow. It is. Yeah, Martin Mull says working with Fred Willard is like following someone who doesn't use their turn signal.
Is it difficult improvising with Fred? Because, I mean, it feels like you can kind of just let him go and you just react or don't react.
That's pretty much it, yeah. He's a force of nature.
When you guys don't get together, when you're not a part of those movies, do you miss it? It seems like it could be kind of an addicting force to be
Yeah,
on the
it
sort
is
of set
fun.
where you get to create and laugh that much.
Yeah, it's fun. And I did a couple of the Larry David shows. It was the same process there. He likes even less prep. I mean, he just likes, do whatever you want, just go. And, and it's fun. And I make him laugh, which is not as easy as it sounds.
I've heard he's really difficult to break.
But if you can mess with him, and it's worth it, because then he has to stop and he gets mad at himself. So, and that's how we like him best, mad at himself and everyone else.
Is there any plans for any Spinal Tap reunions? I mean, you guys get together every now and then.
No, yeah, you know what? In 2009, we went on the road kind of as ourselves, unwigged and unplugged, and we did like 26 cities. We played the Beacon 2 nights here, and it was great. But it's sort of, as far as putting on the wigs and the gear and everything, I think 2009 maybe did. Our last 2 gigs as Spinal Tap were the Glastonbury Festival, where there were like, 200,000 people. I know some of them came to see Bruce Springsteen, but some came to see us. And
I want to meet the people who left after Spinal Tap before Bruce
all right, it ain't gonna get any better than that.
Does it get any better than Big Bottoms?
Yeah,
Thanks so much, Bruce.
And then 3 days later, we played at Wembley Arena, and that was the last Spinal Tap gig, I think. And the opening act was the Folksmen, so we played both ends of the doubleheader, and it was really fun. And I don't know whether we could ever match that again.
Did you guys know in that instance that it was probably the last Spinal Tap?
No,
gig?
in fact, they said the promoter said, "Look, we got a gig, we got an opening. Would you like to play, a short set in Reading or some other place, some other festival?" And it was just we couldn't afford it because we couldn't do the tour anymore. We were just kind of done. But we could have done that. We could have stayed in the UK. We could have a real career in the UK because they really like us there. But I think if you play Wembley and you play Glastonbury, you can walk away.
Let's open it up to the audience for questions. Who's right here?
Hey, Michael.
Hey.
I know you and Bryan Cranston were in a Broadway show All the Way together. Did he give you any advice on being in a Breaking Bad prequel?
No. He was actually the first one to mention to me that I had heard that they were doing a prequel to, a Saul Goodman show. And one day we were about to go on, and he said, you should really play the brother in that show. And I said, what are you talking about? He said, no, they're going to call you. They're going to call you. And they did. They called a couple of days later, So I kind of first heard about it from him. But you know what? He had nothing really. We're kind of both sensible people, and it's not like don't go in there and wipe your nose on your sleeve or anything. He didn't have any advice like that, but he did say that Vince and Peter and those guys were just terrific people, and he was right.
Is there any advice? Say a young actor comes on to a Vince and Peter set and has a script. Is there any advice you would give to them for how to work with this material?
Just read it real carefully and ask
Do your
questions.
job.
Yeah, do your job. Ask questions if if any occur to you, and just it ain't gonna be over like that, because they get their shots, especially Vince. When Vince is directing, this is what you hear after you've nailed it. You've done it 3 times perfectly. All right, I'm gonna beat you up now. We're gonna do it one more time. I'm gonna beat you up.
So at least he's sweet about it.
Oh, he's awesome. Yeah. He's awesome. He's kind of this folksy genius, who flies a helicopter. That's the great thing. When you look over, if you hear that sound up there, it might be Vince. Might be Vince overhead.
Talk about a showrunner, huh?
I know. Yeah.
Next question.
Hey.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for being here.
Sure.
So, what particular actor would you like to work with that you haven't worked with before? Like, would you shadow with them?
I'm so sorry, I'm missing part of that.
Which actor would you like to act with? If you haven't
That I'd like to act with?
Yeah, are there any actors that you haven't acted with before that you'd like to?
Tons of them. Yeah, you name them. New ones, Ben Mendelsohn, the guys I had not known about 2 years ago, people like that. I'd love to work with Al Pacino, I'd love to work with, the same people you'd like to work with. These amazing actors and actresses. And
Mendelssohn's the man. He's so good. Where did that? I mean, I know he was like famous in Australia as a kid,
right?
but
Yeah, and
unbelievable.
he would do something over here, and it wouldn't catch, and then Bloodline happened, and it was like everybody's, who's this guy? And he said, I was about to go back to Australia, but if you really want, I'll stick around.
I remember seeing him in the original Animal Kingdom and just being
blown
that's
where
away.
I first saw him too.
Yeah, he was incredible.
But that didn't have a huge audience over here. It was some people knew about it, but it's a great performance. Yeah. No, I like to work. I've had some amazing experiences on the stage. I got to work with James Earl Jones. I got to work with Angela Lansbury. I got to work with Ian McShane, who we did the Homecoming together. And he's just such an amazing guy and so much fun to work with and so real,
He seems to relish his performances in a way.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mean that he overacts. I love his performances, but I love when you can watch an actor on screen who also feels like they're really enjoying getting to do what they do.
Absolutely. I haven't seen American Gods yet, but I'm looking forward to it. This movie, Hollow Point, came out last year. It's not great. It's kind of like the movie that what was the one with Jeff Bridges?
Crazy Heart?
No, the one that came out last year.
Oh,
You know what I'm
I
talking
know.
about.
Hell or High Water. Yeah.
It was the movie that wasn't Hell or High Water. I mean, it's the same Texas thing, that dry crime, crooked cop thing, except the cops were okay in Hell or High Water. And McShane is just like the nastiest, just smelliest looking Texas sheriff creep you've ever seen in your life. And it's exactly, the rest of the movie could go away, Here's this guy who's just so much fun to watch,
Any monologue in Deadwood, throw it on. I'm ready to watch it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think I have time for one more question. Right here.
Hey, Michael.
Yes, sir.
So now that you've done both comedy and drama, do you find one harder than the other, or is it just kind of the same?
I think ideally they're supposed to be identical, because what you really have to do is figure out what your character wants and then go get it. That is the whole job. That's the whole job description. If it's a comedy, there's more jokes in it, And you kind of learn. You're working with other people, and they have their own systems and everything. But the first job that you have to do is to figure out what you're doing. I love them both, and I'm happy to be able to do both.
People always say the big difference with comedy is timing and the mathematical timing of it. But isn't there a sense of timing when it comes to drama?
Oh,
as
absolutely,
well?
yeah. And I don't think the timing is. I mean, I have pretty good timing because I'm counting seconds in my head. It has come to my attention, and so I know that's there. But I don't figure anything out. And you get to figure out. You get to understand how things work in the course of a scene once you've run it a few times. Or if you're doing a play, once you've really rehearsed it, you kind of know what's there and you go how to find it and everything. But there's not a huge difference. I guess that's my 2 cents.
Michael, The Little Foxes, right, is on Broadway right now.
The Friedman, yes.
At the
47th
Friedman Theater.
Street.
And Better Call Saul premieres tonight.
It does.
On AMC at 10 p.m.
Yep.
Michael McKean, everybody. Michael,
Thank
thanks
you
so
very
much for
much,
being
Bob.
here.